Hi, welcome to the ChangeMakers. In this chat show, we will be talking to marketing and product leaders from consumer brands. The idea is to hear interesting views about how consumer behavior is evolving, and we will also hear about real life stories about how brands are using technology to navigate this change and build better relationships with their customers. In today's episode, we have Jayant, who is a director of product management at ZEE5. Thank you, Jayant. Really appreciate you on the show.
Thank you, Ashwin, for having me. The pleasure is mine.
Awesome. Why don't we start with a bit of an introduction? Just talk a little bit about your background, your journey in product management.
Yes, absolutely.
And was it conscious choice to be in product management? Was it a bit accidental, maybe?
So before I talk about product management and my entry into this particular field, I was a software developer.
I
was
you're on the other side.
I was on the side of table where managers gave me requirement, and I used to think, "Ki, these are how big requirements." And then they used to ask me about the ETAs. I would say, "Ki, ho jayega." Take 2 weeks. Then they would further deep dive into why 2 weeks, why not 3 days, something like this. So I've been on that part of table. And yeah, it was a good learning experience. I started my career as a software developer in Newgen Software. So it's a company based out of Delhi, and they had products in the document management system domain.
Got it.
So it's a domain which helps in digitizing all the business processes. So let's talk about business process of filing a loan application. Yeah,
Got it.
a customer would walk into a bank, fill out a form, right? And then the file would go to the manager, would do check on the fields if everything is working fine.
And they would sign off on
They would sign off, and then it would go to the senior manager for approval.
Got it.
Yeah. So entire process was manual. What the software helped bankers and other companies where all the paperwork was done. So insurance is another type of company. So it helps in digitizing the entire process. And it creates the automated workflows. So no one has to be, told that, okay, the file is on your table now. Okay, have a look.
And you'll also have a log of what was the check.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did what and who signed what.
Yes.
All of that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So entire process was digitized and workflow was automated. I was working on the front end part of it.
Got it.
So this was the first time I actually built some cool, rich interfaces using the technology like the HTML, CSS, and the Ajax, which helps in getting pages load faster. So it was sort of a new technology. That was in 2008.
So this was very early stage.
Yeah. That was very so
way before DocuSign and all of that.
And we were also working with a lot of partners, which helped in securing the entire document flow. For example, there would be a encryption which would help ensure that the right person can open the document.
Right.
So that was a kind of integration where I worked on.
So that was your developer days, and then you moved over to product management.
I'm not yet there.
Okay. So you're not there yet.
Not there yet. So 2 years in Newgen Software, and then 2 years in IBM.
Oh, so it's still as a software developer.
As a software developer.
Okay. Admin.
Yeah. So IBM, it was a different domain altogether. So IBM was more of a cloud computing domain, and that was 2010.
Oh, that was when cloud was
coming up. Everyone wanted to have things on cloud. On-prem, people, no, on-prem, who keeps data on-prem?
Cool thing, but
yeah. It should be more of a cloud thing. Everyone wanted to. Well, and that's where I got exposure into cloud computing and the tech stack that makes up our cloud computing domain. So in IBM Software Labs, it was a kind of quite joyful days for me because it was work from home.
Oh yeah, I remember. I think IBM Software Labs back then used to have one of the most liberal work from home policies. Before work from home was even a term, I suppose. Right?
Exactly. And some day my father used to call me and he would ask me, "Where are you?" I would say, "I'm at home."
And he would be like, "Are you even working? Do you even have a job? Are you lying? What are you doing?" And this was when you were in Bangalore.
Yeah, that was.
But your parents were not here.
My parents are in Kanpur.
So he was like, "Beta, Bangalore, so we don't know what he's doing."
Yeah. Are you doing real job? Do we have to send you money to survive? I said, no, everything's fine. I love my job. Everything is fine. And then I was a bachelor back then. My friends from undergrad were around the vicinity. On weekend, we would go out. We would play cricket and we'd go to places nearby. And so on one of the trip, while we were we were going to Wonderla.
Okay.
So while I was returning back, my father asked me, "How are you? Where are you?" I told him, I'm in Wonderla. I'm
An amusement park.
amusement park." So
He wasn't very amused, was he?
he wasn't very amused. He said, "Okay, we'll talk about it." And see, I come from family which is very academically oriented.
Got it.
My elder brother, my sisters, my sister, she's a pediatrician. My brother, he's working with Halliburton in Desert, Dubai, and everyone were doing quite good in their profession. My father had expectations of me that
And you were the youngest.
I was the youngest one. So my father used to think that you should take inspiration from your
कुछ सीखो,
कुछ सीखो, कुछ बड़ा करो life में. So my brother, he did an MBA from IIM Kozhikode. So I also wanted to do an MBA because I knew if you do an MBA, you'll grow in your career ladder faster. That was way it was looked at. I was able to go into IIM Bangalore.
Oh, so you did one up on your brother.
Yes.
You went to IIM Kozhikode. You went
Yeah,
to a better ranked institute.
Yeah, my brother won't agree to it. Again, wasn't any conscious choice of getting into consulting domain or into marketing or new product management. It was more of a, getting through the day zero, day one,
Just find a job.
find a job.
Yeah.
And after spending quite a huge work in your MBA program, you want to get to a job that pays you well initially.
True.
So in the campus placement program, I was recruited by Reliance Jio as a management training program. So all these big companies like Reliance, Mahindra, Tata, who come to campus placement, they have a management training program. So as a part of this program, you work for a stint, for 6 months stint in a project A, and then you move to some project B. It helps you to give exposure to different functions within the larger group. My first project at Reliance Jio was in the content delivery network team. So this is the technology which helps in smooth streaming. So the likes of Akamai, CloudFront, Limelight, and all these vendors provide services which help in smooth content of smooth playback experience. So that's what my 6-month stint into CDN. And after 6 months, I moved to Network 18. It's a Reliance sister company they acquired in 2014. That was how my product management career actually started.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So that was your entry into
product management and into media and into entertainment industry. So in the Jio, I was part of a program management team, which was doing project management for rolling out CDN into different parts of the country. And that was the time I saw consumer apps like Jio TV, Jio News.
This was
2014.
Okay.
And Reliance Jio, they wanted to have their own CDN because they wanted to. They didn't want to get log into a vendor like Akamai or something else.
Reliance. They wanted to do everything.
They want to do everything. They have money. They can do anything.
True.
Yeah. So back to Network 18. First foray into product management and media entertainment industry. I worked on a product called IBM Live. It's a news website.
Oh yeah, back then I think it was.
Yeah. It was called IBM Live, and then 2 years later, it was renamed to news18.com. At IBM Live, it was a small member team. I practically 2 members. There was a product head, and I was a product manager reporting. Yeah. And this is the initial part of product management journey where I learned the various tools which will help in shipping our product, building UI UX, and getting it QA'd with the help of the stakeholders and the QC team. And it helped me to understand the shipping out part of the product management call. Yeah. I was more into execution part. There are 3 aspects to product management. So the stage 1 is where you actually try to find out opportunities and problems at scale that will unlock value for the business. And your second stage is your execution stage, where you are actually on the factory floor. You are doing things, documenting things, coordinating with your tech folks, with your designer, to ensure that the things that we documented, the requirements are clearly shaping place. And in the end, you get a sign off from the stakeholders who actually gave the requirement, whether it's built in the right way. And then the last part is go to market, where you actually take take your product to the market and where the rubber hits the road. You see your ideas, your big theories actually. You see whether there was
It's like a movie being released.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
you don't know if audience will like it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I was more into execution phase right now because I was an IC, and there are various tools which you have to learn to become a product manager, a well-groomed product manager. So I got to work tools like which help in creating wireframes. There are analytics tools like Google Analytics, and then there are tools which help to measure the attribution side of it, where your users are coming from.
True.
Yeah, and then attributing it, and then ensuring that the marketing team they get the right return on the money spent. So these are the kind of tools you learn when you are in an IC role kind of thing. And then it was a close to 1.5 years stint in network 18. I moved to Tata Communication, where I was more involved into the viability side of a product.
Should we even build it?
Should we even build it or not? So there I used to work closely with the finance team.
Right.
So it was a hardware product, and the way we used to decide whether we should take up a project was based on projecting a business case. So let's say there's a business case which involved procuring hardware, and then there was some considerable OPEX involved, the operational expenditure. So I would work with the finance team, projecting down, putting down the numbers. See, this is our CapEx, this is our OPEX, and in 2 years, whether we'll be able to, what kind of EBITDA are we looking at? So there was a guideline which was given to by finance team. See, if your project is going to be making 20% EBITDA in your first year, go for it. If not, then
I will shelve it.
Shelve it, yeah. And then
This was in Tata.
That was Tata Communication. That was 2016 to 2018.
So moved from media to communications, and then you came back to media.
I came back to media. That was in Shemaroo. So Shemaroo, it's a very old company. It's a 55-year-old brand, public listed company, and not many people know about it. But back the days, 90s, when you used to watch any VCR, there was the Shemaroo logo.
Yep.
And I thought what they are doing in media and entertainment domain, and particularly in the OTT domain. So they wanted to launch their own OTT platform.
And this was in
2018.
That was when I think a lot of media companies were launching.
A lot of OTTs were mushrooming up. At that time, there were around 40, 2018, 40 different OTT platforms.
Correct, because I think that was 2016, Jio came in, made data free, and everyone was consuming a lot of content. Got it.
This started to become very crowded space, the OTT platforms, because everyone had their own content offering and they wanted to distribute it on their own platform instead of going it through the usual YouTube route. So you would see Hoi Choi, which provides Bengali content, and then there are South players
like Sun Next, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shemaroo, they had a very vast library of old Indian content.
And that is what they wanted to distribute.
Yes.
And you were managing the mobile app side.
Mobile app side. So there wasn't any OTT ad back then. They wanted to build it from scratch, and they hired. There was only a product head who hired me, and then there was a QA head. So it was a 3-member product management team.
Yeah.
And then we had a vendor who gave us 14 developers to work with.
So the development was actually not in the company.
Yes.
That must have been interesting.
Yeah. Shemaroo, it's not a tech company. It's a pure play content company. They would acquire content and they would distribute it. So it was more of a mindset shift.
Correct.
That they want to use technology to distribute their content. So there's a vendor called Serenu, which based out of Bangalore, and I was interfacing with them. So my responsibility was to get this thing from idea into a tangible product and out into the market.
So this is when you actually launched the mobile app for Shemaroo.
Yes.
So that was your sort of big public-facing shipping as a product manager.
Yes, that was the biggest challenge of my life, because till then I was working on small features. Yeah, there's an existing product, you want to improve it, you introduce some new features, and you look at whether it's driving some metrics up or not. And here the task was to build something from ground up, which involved a lot of components. Just to give you an example, when we were building Shemaroo, we had to onboard a CDN vendor, right? The CDN vendor which I was talking about, the content delivery network.
Right.
Yeah. So I had to evaluate Akamai, Limelight, CloudFront, And how do we measure which will be good for us? So price is of course the one thing, and everyone will say, okay, I'll offer you the cheapest.
Everyone will say I'm the best.
I'm the best. Yeah. So what we did a POC with all three vendors. We transcoded some content, sample content, and we saw how was the streaming experience. Practically didn't make any difference for that. So, and Shemaroo, they had some engagement with AWS. So I recommended, let's use AWS. Why do you want to go with some other? And AWS, they had some lock-in as well. So if you are using their S3 bucket for storage, so all the data that flows out of it, it's chargeable. So let's say if you were using S3 as a storage and Limelight or Akamai as a CVM,
you would pay more.
They pay more. Yeah, there's a data.
You pay for storage, you pay for delivery as well.
Delivery as So the no-brainer was to go with CloudFront, and tests suggest that didn't make any great difference. Yeah. And we didn't know how would the adoption be. So Shemaroo, and it's not a very well-known family name. So initially there would be a very less traction. So it won't make a huge difference on the playback experience of the user. And that's how we onboarded CloudFront. Now you have to build up another component, which is the partners which help you to provide all the analytics, as well as the attribution analytics, as well as the marketing automation tools. Yeah. So I had to go through all the vendors, evaluate them, and then suggest to my CEO, look, this is the way, this is the vendor which we should partner with.
That must have been a very stressful job, right? Because you're the one who's recommending all the vendors. And if the vendor screws up,
I
right? Yeah. Then your boss is like, boss, what are you doing? You're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Awesome. Yeah. And then after Shemaroo is when you actually moved to ZEE5, is it?
Actually moved to ZEE5.
Very nice. Very nice. And then talking about, we'll come to the ZEE5 part of it a little bit later. But then I think one point you mentioned was that the product management as a function is very vast.
Yes.
Right. And there are multiple sort of competencies and skill sets that are associated with the product management.
Absolutely.
What are the areas of product management that you like or you don't like? Right. It's the same thing in marketing.
Yeah.
Right. There is no perfect marketer who likes everything about marketing.
Absolutely.
Right? So somebody likes content, somebody is good at product marketing, somebody is good at events, somebody could be good at brand. The brand guys might not like to do events or they might not like to do digital marketing. Right. So they have their sort of personal preferences on which parts of marketing they like and they're really good at. Anything for you in such product management, which you sort of like your superpower, which you really like doing it and you're good at it, and things which you're like, I just want to get this done because I don't.
So one of my superpower in product management domain is getting an idea turned into a tangible product and shipping it out in the market. So there are ideas people talk about, a lot of cool things that can be done. But in the end, you have finite resources, and then you are also answerable to your senior leaders that we have invested in resources and we are not seeing anything. All they want is something which is out, which can be used by people. And then that will give us learnings to improve and then bring on new enhancements, build new features. But the actual core job of turning an idea into a product, it is really challenging because then people have different perception. And the thing with stakeholders is that they look at different parts of the elephant. Product manager would see an elephant as a whole, but the marketing would see the backside of the elephant. Sales would see this side of the elephant, and the creative guys, they will want to put all the bells and whistles because they want to make it a very outstanding product.
They want to be the most beautiful elephant in the world.
And then the engineers, they want
the elephant to run like a cheetah.
And there's an interesting meme. There's a comic strip where you wanted to make a swing, and people had ideas of putting a rubber or putting a tire which will help to go to the swing faster, something like that. I don't recall exactly, but there were 10 requirements, and they had some conceptual view of how it would look like. But when the thing actually got delivered, it was something else.
That's a part of product marketing. Where you sort of take an idea and then you ship it. So you're the kind of guy who likes to ship.
Yeah, I like to ship. And the part of it where you have to do user research, talk to multiple stakeholders. I won't say I don't like it, but it's more of a theoretical or an academic exercise, which I believe. Because see, when you decide on making this particular design, you can talk to designer, you can talk to your business stakeholders from your marketing and sales. They will see, I would like to have this color of a button, or I would like to have this information architecture. I would like to have this kind of a user flow. Everyone has their own ideas, their own perception, but we don't know what will work, right? And then if you talk to user will say something and will, from deep within, they will mean something else. That's what Steve Jobs said, that he doesn't listen to customers. Yeah. And that was a very famous quote by Henry Ford, that if he would have listened to customers, they would end up making faster horses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's the part where, the hidden feelings don't actually come out. It only comes out when you actually see people using your product. You get to see the signals. Are they happy? Are there some drop-offs in a particular journey? Whether this journey is a friction. So when things is actually out in the market, you then get to take a decision on what is working, what is not working.
Nice.
So this part, something which I try to get off my table as soon as possible.
That's an interesting one, right? Because I think, in a lot of cases, we all sort of get paralyzed with insights and data.
Yes.
But I think at the end of the day, a lot of product management also is art, just like in marketing.
Absolutely.
Right? You just want to do something cool. You just want to build something cool, right? It may not be validated perfectly with all the data that you work with, but it's close to your heart, and you want to just build something cool. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing with marketing.
Yeah.
Just want to run a cool campaign. Do something creative, right? We don't know if it will work or has worked, but that's an interesting one. And then let's sort of come to ZEE5, right? And I think you joined ZEE5, I think about 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, 3.5 years.
Right? A very interesting time, because I think ZEE5 started in 2018 or so.
2019. So it was
like 2 years. So I was fairly young when you joined. 2021 was pandemic. Everybody was at home. They were consuming a lot of content. So your user growth must have been skyrocketing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very interesting time. And then you spent the last 3.5 years sort of. And then ZEE also was like a very traditional sort of a media company who's seen that changes, right? From cable to satellite, direct to home. Set-top boxes and then sort of streaming. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? Like when you came in, and then in the 3.5 years of journey after you joined ZEE5, what has been some of the most sort of, personally satisfying projects or personally satisfying initiatives or work that has happened in the last 3.5, 4 years for you at ZEE5?
Sure. I'll give you a brief context of how ZEE5 began its journey. So that was in 2019 when ZEE5 was launched on mobile apps, and then subsequently was launched on connected TV platforms as well,
like Fire Stick,
Android TV, and then likes of HTML5, Samsung, LG. So 2019 was the time when there wasn't any tech team in-house. ZEE, again, as any legacy content producer, you want to focus on content. That was the case with Shemaroo as well. They wanted to focus on content, leave the distribution and technology to the vendors. At ZEE, we had a similar mindset, and there were vendors who were onboarded to build the technology for us. And there were vendors based out of Israel who were helping us in shaping ZEE5 on mobile platforms. Yeah. So it took them close to 1.5 years of bringing it. And, the thing with vendor is you give them the requirement, they will deliver it.
And then they move on.
There's no skin in the game for them. So things like performance or scalability, they would do minimal best. But when it comes to actually deliver to thousands of people at the same time, the kind of scale that you're looking at, it has to be done in-house. There's no other option. So I'll give an example. Platform took close to 1.5 years of building it. And then it was done in a way which wasn't very agile or flexible. Small things, we would require an app release, and features would take a lot of time to build up. Yeah. That was the kind of shape ZEE5 was in. So in 2021, the leadership team, they wanted to revamp the look and feel of ZEE5. and in fact revamp the entire user experience. So they brought in the leadership team, and it was based out of Bangalore, the Tech and Innovation Center, where I currently work. So they had a mandate of improving the entire experience of ZEE5. So they brought in top people from technology, from design, data, and from product, and we started to went to the drawing board and see what are the various user journeys, what are the point of friction, right? And the thing is, ZEE5 it wasn't built in a way that would be resilient. So when I talk about resilient architecture, it's all about using microservices. When you have a monolithic architecture, making small changes would lead to a lot of turnaround time. Think of monolithic structure as a big stone, right?
Right.
And to make changes to it, you would break it down, you carve
The entire stone somewhere.
Yeah, do some jugaad. So a lot of patchwork, bandages, which wasn't a very ideal way for a scalable platform. Right now, Z has close to 100 million active users in a month.
Wow.
Yeah. To offer a seamless playback experience, navigation experience, it would take a different mindset. So the technology team, they sat together, rewrote the architecture, broke the monolithic architecture into microservices kind of an architecture, and made it more resilient. And it was more agile and dynamic. So now we were able to run sprints. If we were able to design a feature build, we would take a sprint and ship it out. That was the kind of the experience that we were trying to build for end users, and as well as for the entire users as well. My personal satisfying experience was improving the app rating. So just to give you some background, ZEE5 was rated below 3.
Wow. And this was in 2021.
2021. And then there were launches like Radhe and Friends Reunion. The thing with OTT platform is, if you bring a marquee content, a tentpole kind of content like Radhe or Friends Reunion, there would be millions of people who would subscribe and see, want to experience about the platform, what it has to offer. But then after watching Radhe or a couple of other show or movie, they would find there's nothing for me. And then they would lead to a lot of churn. So and it would also lead a bad taste in the mouth of the user. Yeah. So if you are looking, you have high expectations, there's a Radhe coming up, you want to watch it with the family, and then you are seeing, okay, there's a glitchy experience. I'm watching, there's a buffering. I am trying to log in, my OTP is not coming. Yeah. So this kind of experience will force user to give out a 1 star or 2 star on the App Store and the Play Store. That's how our rating started plummeting. And we had a clear mandate. If you have a bad rating and you come to the Play Store and you see an app which has a rating of 2.3, whether will you download it? Won't, right? But if you see an app with a 4 above rating, you'll definitely decide, let's go for it. That was the mandate we had to improve the app rating experience. And there are two aspects to it. So one is the engineering aspect, where the architecture was revamped. The APIs were reduced so that the request response time was reduced to milliseconds, and the payload would be made a bit shorter. So payload is the kind of data which is sent to the server and the response they get back. If you have a huge payload, app will feel buggy, it will feel heavy and not very responsive. So that was the engineering side of it. From the product side and the design side, you have to look at the various touch points, how the user consumes content. So if a user is coming from a marketing campaign, they should see the actual content which they came for. Sometimes the deep links are broken, right? You saw an ad of movie A, clicked on it, installed the app. You go to the home page. It's to the home page, yeah. The typical marketer's problem, which is probably the marketing problem. Yeah. And then other product related experiences, you have to fill a form. It asks for a lot of details. Right. It should be one type experience.
Oh.
You log into you want to buy a plan, you select a plan, you authenticate using one tab. There's no need for, now we have integrated with Truecaller, which offers a seamless one type login experience. You have the Truecaller app installed on your device. The mobile number surfaces up. You just give a tap, no OTP, and you are through. See, these kind of consumer experiences, which are one tap, doesn't take too much friction. Yeah. is the kind of thing that users want. And because people have been watching Netflix, Amazon, and Hotstar, they are habitual to that kind of experience which is very smooth, and the content they want to watch is right there in front of them. Don't have to dig for it. These are the challenges that we had. So from product point of view, we started to solve for discovery related challenges. We started to solve for onboarding challenges. And then we also wanted to solve for data collection, but in a way that doesn't hamper user experience. And you want to collect users' data, but it should be done in a progressive manner.
Cool.
There's a user who comes onto your platform. You ask for your age, your gender, your content affinity, your its size. That thing. Users say, "I'm here to watch a movie." ये सब क्यों पूछ रहे हो? I am not. You're not a bank.
And then I think this whole thing about them, and then you're absolutely right?
Yeah.
Because I've seen apps where you go in and they're like, what is your mood? What do you want to watch? Like, do you prefer horror versus do you prefer romance? And I'm like, at this point in time, I feel like watching horror. Tomorrow morning, I don't want to watch horror. I probably want to watch a romantic movie. I don't know.
Yes.
So, but that's interesting. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So we focused on these kind of consumer journeys. And in fact, our leadership team, they broke down the entire consumer journey into small charters. And these charters would work with their engineering counterparts, with their design and, of course, marketing counterpart to design journeys and to build experiences which will be more delightful for the user. I was heading the acquisition charter back then, and it is now merged with the customer excellence charter right now, which I currently lead. So my charter responsibility was to improve the app rating and to ensure that users, we do not put so much information, we do not ask so much information from the user that how asking too much feedbacks at every interaction. So it had to carefully thought about what are the interactions that will make users happy. So anything that gives you a good experience, you won't leave a good rating, right? You go to a restaurant and you had a bad experience, you will say, I'll give you 1 star.
True.
Yeah.
But if you have a 5-star experience,
you will talk about it. That's the challenge. Yeah. So users, although if there are 100 users, 20 of them had a bad experience, they would rate 1 and your rating goes down. But out of the 80 experience,
25 will rate you 5 stars. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make too much of an impact on that rating. So what we thought was having a micro journeys where users would see we thought that users would be happy in this kind of a journey. We surface a perform, we ask users to rate them, and that's how we started improving the app rating along with. But the way to identify happy journey was to actually see whether users would got the value from the experience. So let's say there's a user who has watched 3 or 4 videos in a session. It implies that we were able to provide a better discovery for the user who were able to then continue to browse more videos. So at this point of time, we would nudge users to rate us.
Very nice.
Yeah. And if there's a value exchange, then users will give out something. If you're asking something, if I'm asking you and I'm not giving you back, you won't oblige, right? So that was the kind of a project which was quite impactful for my team.
So you went from 2.3.
Now we are the highest rated.
Very nice. That's a very nice achievement. And you mentioned one more interesting thing, right? So you touched upon this a little bit, but I want to dig a little deeper into this. Right? So you spoke about, I think you spoke about mindset change in Shemaroo. You spoke about, coming from a legacy sort of thing, even in ZEE5 and sort of, doing this transformation, right? And let's talk a little bit about this transformation itself, right? In ZEE5, you came in, they had an app with a vendor, and now they were like, okay, let's be more sophisticated, let's be more data driven, let's be more customer centric. So we'll bring a lot of this in house. What were like the biggest challenges, right? Because the end result, obviously, everyone understands the end result, right? But to get there, what were like the biggest challenges for you within ZEE5 to sort of make this change, and it being more data driven and being more this thing?
I'll talk about a couple of challenges. So any traditional or any legacy company, so it's a top-down approach. You have leaders telling that something has to be done.
Right.
And since it's a vendor, it's not your own team also. So you will tell them, look, I want ABC things to be made, to be built. And they would build for you, right? So it's more of a feature-driven organization. And there's a parlance in product management that you have to be a product-led company. when I talk about product-led company, you have to think from consumer experience at the core. If you can have consumer experience at the core, rest everything comes out around it, right? So from having a feature-driven mindset to a consumer growth required a change in the mindset because there was also trust deficit, right? It was a new team which was assembled in 2021, and we had to phase out the vendor.
Right.
Yeah. So initially, there always there were challenges with the teething problems with the vendors. The code has to be brought in. The engineers, they would take time to understand the code, and then releasing out new features will take time because it's the transition phase, right? And the leadership, they were not expected to this kind of a
Cycle.
yeah. So they wanted things to happen in a jiffy.
Yes.
So the trust was a bit eroded in the beginning, but then when the entire leadership team, which was brought in 2021 at the Tech Innovation Center, I must say they played a very good role in setting expectation, aligning all the leaders from our corporate headquarters. So Mumbai is there, the corporate headquarters is. So they did a fabulous job in aligning them and giving this mindset that if we have consumer journey at our core, providing them a value proposition, then things will fall in place, right? So that was the kind of a mindset that has to be shifted. Now everything is in theory now. I tell you, okay, I'll do XYZ things for you. But if you don't deliver, again, you lose the trust. And the way to gain trust is you deliver things in timely manner and with the right quality. If you fail to deliver on these two things, you are won't. All the talks will be some shallow talks. Won't make too much of a difference. So then we took on smaller kind of projects so that we can actually establish trust. So the app rating was one of the projects that we took up. And then there was other projects related to the discovery and the content recommendation. So we were able to demonstrate to our leadership team back in Mumbai that this team is capable of doing it. Give us the right time, give us the right amount of time, and give us the decision-making autonomy, and we will be able to deliver it for you. Yep. So, and we also had designers, we also had data people whom we were working closely, and then we brought our insights in front of our business counterparts. They were delighted to know that they had the blind spots which they were not able to see. I'll just give you an example. So, people have been talking from the marketing team that their viewership on connected TV, especially on HTML5, it's low, right? So while they said that it's low, but you have to deep down into a particular platform, why it is low on a particular platform. So let's say my average, I am getting 100 users, and out of 100 users, maybe 50 are watching. This is an average number of aggregated across all the CTV platforms. But within connected TV, there are a lot of different kind of tech stack. Right. HTML5 is one of the tech stack, which has a sort of a proportional lower user percentage population. But then the drop off was quite higher on it. It takes a very careful approach to look at individual platforms, and it boils down to look at individual OEMs, the original equipment manufacturer, right?
Like Samsung TV,
LG,
Sony TV.
Yeah. So we showed them that this is the journey that users were asked to log in when they opening a app on HTML5 app, and this is the kind of drop off we looked at. They were more than happy to share more insights. They were more fueled and energized to work with us. They then interested us. Okay, what should we do about it? We told them, give us 3 weeks time. We'll revamp the journey. And we did that. We took it's just extended to 3.5 weeks. We were able to deliver it. Slowly, we started getting that trust from our stakeholders. And then the journey has been a very engaging one with our stakeholders, where we do a quarterly planning at the start of a quarter. So we finished recently the O&D planning. That was the time when you were trying to ask me for this conversation, and I was saying,
oh yeah, you're too busy.
I was too busy. See, this O&D planning has to be out. Now that planning is out, we are again back to the execution phase.
So that's interesting, right? So you spoke about, I think there were two important thing that you sort of spoke about, right? So there was this whole trust angle. Uh, and then you sort of talked about how you utilized data to sort of bring some insights into the table and then solve for some of those insights or problem statements, which help build trust, right? And solve this in a timely and with a certain amount of quality, right? So, but let's sort of double click a bit on these challenges, right? So, can you talk a little bit about how you solved for like what were were there any workflows or were there any changes in the way you looked at team structures to solve for this trust and data silo sort of a challenge?
Yep, sure. So Ashwin, the way we were structured earlier was we used a platform lead. So ZEE5 was available on Android, web, iOS, and then the connectivity. And then the structure was that there was a product lead for each platform. Now the thing is that, let's say 70% of my users are on Android, right? Remaining 20% are on connectivity, maybe 3% to 5% on iOS and on the web. The entire focus will be on Android, right? Yeah. And then people will be too much focused on Android. They would think about this is the platform where we should spend our entire energy. So, and the kind of the number of people that were there in the Android team were quite high as compared to the smaller platforms like connectivity or iOS. But if you look at consumer journey, it's not a platform specific, right? You start your day on your Android, but in the night you are watching something on your TV.
Correct.
It has to be a well-knit connected journey as well. It's not a journey which has to be looked into isolation. That was the kind of a shift from the organizational point of view we had. And then what we did was look at the entire consumer journey, starting from customer coming onto the platform, whether organically or via some paid marketing campaign. And then we asked them for certain minimum data points which help them to surface content which will be relevant for them. That is the discovery phase. And if users are able to discover more content which is cater to their taste, their preferences, they will eventually be willing to share the wallet with us. And that's the monetization strategy, right? And then when people are spending time, they are engaged, we want them to stay with us for a longer time. That's how the loyalty picture comes in. Yeah, we want to have a loyalty program, build a community, have some Ask Me Anything program with the celebrities where users will be more engaged, so that we do not churn out on a particular user. And in marketing, acquiring a customer is hard.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. Yeah,
time consuming.
Time consuming. You have acquired a customer, you want to retain the customer as long as it's possible. So that's where the entire life cycle of a customer comes in.
Got it.
And if you have a life cycle of a customer in right at your core, you will have people who are working on improving the particular stage of that life cycle. In my charter, the customer experience charter, we try to focus on how do we collect user data, but we do not want to bother users with asking so much information at the one. We progressively ask. And these are some of the micro interactions that we have built. Yeah. The other aspect of my charter is that we want to help in acquiring users organically. And so we worked with the SEO team in optimizing our pages. We want to have landing pages that people, if are searching something on, let's say they are searching on Akshay Kumar in the movies, ZEE5 will be in the top 5 results. And if we are in the top 3 results, traffic will come to us. And that's a free traffic. So these are the kind of things that my charter works on. And the architecture I was talking about, the team architecture, when everyone is able to focus the journey on specific part of consumer journey. So for example, the discovery charter, they're able to surface the relevant content as per the time of the day, as per user's affinity. And if the users are not able to discover by browsing, they are going to search. And in the search, we are able to show them the right kind of content. So for example, if you are searching for content which is not available, but you are able to surface the content which is similar to the kind of genre that you are looking for, you'll have people clicking on it and they'll be engaged, right? Now coming back to the monetization experience. Now in India, we know there's a huge gap in the way people want to spend their money, right? Netflix learned it a very hard way.
Yeah. And so did YouTube and a lot of others. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We wanted to have a small monthly plan as well as plan which are suited for their high resolution TV, the 4K plan. Yeah. So these kind of experiences we built within our app with the users who wanted to watch, okay, this is the kind of content I want to watch. I'll stick with a monthly plan. But there are users who are, let's say, they want to watch some shows, and the shows has seasons and episodes which come in subsequent months. They'll go for a yearly plan. Yeah, so that's the monetization experience. And coming back to the loyalty experience, so loyalty experience is quite different from what you have in a Starbucks or any transaction kind of an app like Flipkart, where you buy things, you earn money, you earn coins, and then you redeem it, earn and burn. In our case, currency is time. Users are coming onto a platform to watch content which they like. We won't tell them, look, you watch this content, you'll get this much coins.
Yeah, you watch 5 minutes, I'll give you back 30 seconds. So interesting.
Yeah, so that kind of a loyalty is quite different from you have in the transaction domain. And so loyalty has to be built by building a community around content. And with content is that if I watch a particular movie, I'll recommend to my friend, ye movie achhi hai, jao dekh ke aao. And if my friend is recommending, I will definitely go first. Yeah. So that's the kind of insight that we looked at, that people share content with their friends if they like it. And if we are kind of able to build a positive feedback loop around it, people referring their friend and their friend referring their friend, we are not able to attract users organically, but you are able to improve the loyalty of the user, which eventually reduces the churn, and then it's a positive feedback cycle.
And then there was like a pod which was dedicated to each of this customer. Like,
it's
like a pod which was like, I'll only focus on acquisition and providing exactly what. So it doesn't matter what platform I acquire.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I can acquire them on Fire Stick.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah.
And then loyalty is like, okay, make the best loyalty program possible. And that's got it. So that's an interesting way. So you sort of structured the team and moved away from a very platform
platform doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And that, I think, and what you're saying is like that sort of helped bridge that trust gap and make those decisions faster because you aligned more with the customer.
Yes.
That's an interesting one, right?
And we also had business counterparts who were interacting with these charters.
Right.
Yeah. So it was sort of a small startup, as you can say, with a small team of product managers, designers, data analyst guys, engineers, and then the business counterparts who sync every week, talk about what are the pain points, and then build out a roadmap to address those pain points.
So these business managers also were looking at one part of the customer life cycle.
Yes.
So we had an acquisition business manager,
exactly,
onboarding this, and they would talk.
We would do a weekly sync up. We would talk about our initiatives which are planned for this particular quarter and the status update.
Interesting, because you kind of answered my next follow-on question, right? Because when you have teams which are looking at one part of the customer journey, one of the challenges is how does that data from that part of the customer journey progress to the subsequent parts of the teams, right? Because now your loyalty person may not know which channel or data about which channel or source you actually acquired the user from, right? And they might, so that's a bit of a blind spot. But what you're saying is you had business managers who would talk regularly and just sync with the saying, okay, this is what I'm seeing in my part of the customer journey. What are you seeing? And then sort of help.
And it's also, it would, eventually there would be some conflicts, because if you are trying to optimize two metrics, it's a optimization problem, right?
Correct.
Example is that I want to increase my ARPU, but I also want to bring in more subscribers.
Correct.
You want to give them discount, and as well as you want to charge higher prices. How do you do that? You find out the right kind of experience which will be optimal for both the metrics.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. So we spoke about the challenges, and then you sort of talked about how you structured the team, how you looked at it to solve for these challenges. I think on the impact side of things, you already covered the big impact, right?
Yeah.
You're at 100 million, MAUs today. And then, you moved your App Store rating moved from somewhere near 3 to the highest rated one today. But were there any other sort of, because these are all very lagging indicators, right? Like your App Store rating is not going to change in the next 3 months, right? It'll take 12 months, 15 months, right? Your MAUs are not going to increase significantly in the next 1 or 2 months. But were there any leading indicators, impact points where you looked at, say, we are going in the right direction? Because going back to the point that you made, your leadership, there was a trust deficit in the leadership and the rest of the organization, or at least the central head office in Iran, and then the rest of the organization. And oftentimes when you can only tell that, okay, wait, we'll get there, wait, we'll get there. After some point, they're also going to get impatient, right? So they're like, okay, I know I'll get there 18 months. You've been saying that for last 3 months, but show me we are on the right path. So were there any sort of leading indicators, impact metrics that you looked at to build that confidence that, yes, we know we are going to get there in 18, 24 months, but here is some point which will tell you that we are going in the right direction?
Yeah. So I'll just go into a bit theory of it. So all the consumer facing apps, they fall into 3 buckets usually. So either you are playing in the transaction game,
right,
all the e-commerce apps like Flipkart, Amazon, or you are in the attention game where you have all the Netflix, TikTok, Instagram, who are trying to get your attention. I want my users' share of time. And the last one is the productivity app, which helps you to get things done faster. So we, and in fact, all the OTT companies and social media platforms, they come into this attention game and want to capture users' attention as much as possible. And the way to the North Star metric for it, don't call it a metric, because when you call North Star a metric, it defies the purpose of a North Star. North Star is something that you look at. It gives you a guide. But if you start measuring it, then things go in a wrong direction, right? So, for example, if I want to be healthy, that's my North Star. But if I say I want to, this should be my North Star metric is I should be losing weight this much, I would probably resort to diet. Starving. Just to really achieve my North Star metric. So North Star should be something which gives you direction for everyone. In our case, it's going to be the time spent on the app. So the more people spend time on the app, the more we find that users are finding value in the app. Yeah. And again, we have tools to measure all these kind of metrics. So we work closely with Conviva, and we are able to understand how much time the users are spending in a session. And we have to look at the time spent on the app from the breadth of the user of the app, from the depth of the usage, and the frequency of the users of the app. When I say breadth of the usage, how many people are we able to reach out to? Right? If they are available on, let's say we see that our users are on a particular platform and they are also on Android device, are they able to reach out to the other platforms? They have a higher propensity to spend time, right? And then the depth of the consumer interaction, how deep they are going within their session. Are they just going through a video and bouncing it off? So there's something, a metric that we measure. It's called the viewer to user ratio. I am a user, I've come onto the platform, but I don't find anything, I drop off. My viewer to user ratio goes down, right? And then the frequency of the usage, how often I come back, which is our retention metric, which is again a leading indicator that 100 people came onto that platform, and after a week, 70% are dropping off. Though these kind of retention metrics that we talk about. So all these kind of input metrics go into the leading metric, which is the time spent on the platform.
Right.
And we were able to boil down to all these input metrics. For example, the number of videos watched by viewer, right? The viewer to user ratio, and the number of users whom we are reachable. And we are able to see that there's an overlap between our users who are on mobile app and then their users who are on connected TV app. Yeah. So if you are able to increase that particular coverage, will be there in our ultimate North Star metrics here. And to just give you some example, which we try to, some of the features that we did to improve all these input metrics is the first time when users, it was the very start of in the beginning of 2021. When users install the app, used to be a 3-step onboarding process. We would ask, tell me your mobile number. Okay. Next, okay, what is your content language preference? Kind of genre do you like watch? And we are seeing that users are dropping off. And in digital marketing, every step that you introduce leads to a drop off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you want to have a journey where users install the app and they are taken to the home page. That's it. Uske baad, we will, of course, we'll surface the right kind of content that will take care of viewer to user ratio. And then talking about retention metric. So retention is something which are also taken care by using off-channel marketing engagement, right? So we started using WhatsApp, inform users that if there's a new content which is coming up, they will get notified. Yeah. Of course, there is the process of taking opt-in from the users, and which is in a manner very less intrusive for the user. So multiple efforts off channel, on platform, and these led to help in driving these metrics month on a month basis. So the question that you're talking about, how do we gain the trust? That's how we were able to gain trust. We do it. We roll out the feature in a sprint, takes increase the adoption, and have some guardrail metrics around it. So, for example, there's a success metric and then there's the guardrail metric. Guardrail metrics are the metrics which get affected.
Like cost, for example.
Exactly, the cost. Or so we have a playbook that our product leaders have documented that if you have metric A and metric B, your metric A is going up, but your metric B, which is your guardrail metric, is going down, or this is impacting your viewership, something like this. You are increasing your signups, but then you are decreasing viewership. So you have to revisit your journey and then think through it, right? We were able to bring all these input metrics in our discussions. And when we were building features, we had this key input metric that this is the metric which we are trying to move. And in a month, if you are seeing that adoption is the metric is moving, we were then scaling
in the right direction. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. I think if you've sort of gone into a lot of depth, Jayant, in terms of this whole transformation, and we focused a lot on this. Thank you so much. This was super helpful. Before we sort of end this session, one sort of fun question. ZEE5 has a lot of content. If you were to sort of describe your journey in product management or your journey within ZEE5 itself, and then sort of compare that to a show or some piece of content within ZEE5, what would that be?
So there's a recently launched web series called Gyara Gyara, and I think you should go for it if you like science fiction kind of a genre and a murder mystery.
Ah, nice.
It's a whole kind of a different genre where you have science fiction and you have murder mystery baked into one thing.
Nice.
So I'll tell you about a brief plot, but won't go.
No spoilers. Okay. No spoilers. Yeah. I haven't watched it yet. Yes, and so have a lot of people. They've not watched it, but yes.
So there's a crime which happened 20 years back, and the files, the inspector who was investigating this crime goes missing. The files get then the file gets closed. 20 years later, there's a mandate from government that all the files which have been closed should be opened up. And there's a protagonist who is given this task. There's a murder mystery which happened 20 years back. And every night at 11, he gets a signal on a walkie-talkie. Someone communicating.
Somewhere. No spoilers. But it's interesting. And the story is about how that person, the new cop, solves the murder mystery.
Yeah. And that's how related to product management, right? We are sort of detective. We are looking at evidences. We are looking at some of the inputs which can help in identifying whether this problem is worth solving it, whether this opportunity is worth chasing it, right? So we are detective looking at data. We are looking at evidences. And if you are able to look at things in silos and make a pattern out of it, and then you are able to build into something a tangible feature that can be used by other users. So that's how I relate this directive and
product. Very nice. And I think it's also apt for your sort of situation at ZEE5, right? Because you also had like a 20-year legacy.
Yeah.
which is sort of had to build the trust and and sort of change that mindset and all of that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Hey, thank you so much, Jayant. This was a very nice conversation. I think we went into a lot of depth, and I'm sure the audience are going to have like very interesting takeaways, specific ones. Because quite often a lot of these conversations are at very high level. But thank you for being so candid and sort of going into the depth of some of these challenges.
I hope the audience who are watching this have some learnings from my experience, because product management is a continuous evolving field. Just like any knowledge worker, you are in the marketing domain, you will have n number of challenges, n number of learnings on a regular basis. The same goes for product management as well. And I love marketing as a function.
Thank you.
And I love marketers a lot.
Thank you, Jayant. It was great having you on the show, and thank you for coming by.
Thank you, Shin. The pleasure is mine.